Jimmy Patronis in studio is the chief financial officer for the state of Florida, also the fire marshal. And I'm curious how those got blended, earlier. Jimmy, so we've known each other for years now. We have called, talked to each other, texted. This is the first time we're actually meeting in person.
Oh, wow.
So there's so many times I would listen to Todd's show, and he would talk about a problem. And I remember, I think the first one was someone with the highway patrol.
Yeah.
And it was, I think, a sofa fell off the back of a vehicle, and how to get it picked up off the road.
Right.
So then I said, the highway patrol reports to me. I said, I'm gonna call in, or I think I direct messaged you or something. And then, needless to say, then become a fan ever since.
That's awesome, man.
So Jimmy was listening to my afternoon show, my syndicated show, because I was up on a station in Panama City.
94.5.
Up in Panama City. Jimmy, welcome to the studio. You've been chief financial officer now for how many years?
7 years.
So it's 7 years. And you're also the state fire marshal. There's so much to talk about. You want to address the electric vehicle fires first, or do you want to do the scams? I mean, there's a lot to cover.
So, the EVs, we're up to 16 lithium-ion battery fires so far from this most recent storm with Helene. 6 of those are automobiles. And so I think some of the videos have been going viral where you've seen the house has burned down. The house survived, but the EV didn't, and the saltwater storm surge compromised the battery, create a thermal runaway.
All right. The thermal runaway, that's a scary proposition. So here in the Tampa Bay area, we've seen, we had the biggest storm surge other than up in the Big Bend where, Steinhatchee got walloped again, unbelievably, Taylor County. So locally, we've had a number of high-profile issues. On Davis Islands, right behind Tampa General Hospital, I don't know if you've been out there yet.
Not yet.
There was an EV fire that burned a phenomenal house to the ground. I mean, gone. And
that's a Panama City girl.
It was?
Yes.
So that was Davis Islands.
Yep.
And that home, Tampa Fire couldn't even get there because, and I don't know if you heard this, but Tampa Fire lost vehicles trying to respond to calls. Hillsborough County Fire and Rescue, we had Sheriff Cronister on, and the sheriff told us, and that was at the time that Hillsborough County Fire and Rescue lost 11 vehicles trying to help people and get to calls for service. So we had Davis Islands. We had the EV there, burned the house down. We had the video that's gone viral of the Tesla in Pinellas in the garage where you can see it catching on fire in water.
Yep.
In water, it's catching on fire. Then we had, I don't know if you know, in my neighborhood in Beach Park, South Tampa, right across the Howard Franklin and just south of the Howard Franklin, all along the water there. That's the West Shore area and Beach Park, and that's where I am. I'm right on Tampa Bay, and right around the corner from me, the next block over.
That's right. You told me that in the text.
Yep, and I don't know if you saw the video on my. I think you responded. You saw the video. You saw the video on my Instagram, and that house was gutted. And you've heard of Gray Bull Rescue and Brian Stern.
Okay.
They rescued the family at 3 a.m. Tampa Fire could not get trucks into our neighborhood. And this private rescue organization, he's in Lebanon, he was on our show on Monday morning. 5 hours after he was on our show, he was on a plane to Lebanon with his former Navy SEALs rescuing Americans out of Lebanon.
Wow.
I mean, I want to put you in touch with him.
Sure, I'd love to meet him.
His organization, he's a former, Special Forces, Brian Stern, it's Gray Bull Rescue, and it's a nonprofit based right here in Tampa Bay. Rescued this family at 3 a.m. on rafts. Neighbor had a kayak, and the home next door was also subject to completely getting torched. Rescued 2 families at 3 in the morning and pulled them through the neighborhood on rafts and boats to get them away from the house fire.
Well, we drove down here Tuesday before nightfall. We were in Jacksonville, and I said, guys, I told the team, I said, we got to be in Tampa tonight. I said, with the storm surge that we're going to see spun off this storm, I am worried about what it's going to do to Tampa Bay because it's a high-density area.
Yep.
Pinellas County's high density. And we saw it with Hurricane Helene. We had about 17, 18 EV fires, and we knew it was going to happen here too. And so I've been critical of the EV manufacturers because it's a connected product. So we saw with Idalia where actually the EVs, some of the manufacturers did push notifications. Hey, this is what you need to be aware of. It was crickets this time.
With the car fires, now we've had other lithium-ion battery fires. You said a total of how many we know of?
19.
19. And then how many vehicles at this?
6.
Okay. And most Teslas?
Well, Tesla has the market share.
And that's the reason. So there are more Tesla. So people say, why all Teslas? Well, to be fair, they have the largest market share of the EV market.
And we've been sensitive because even a hybrid has a large lithium-ion battery.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's not only limited to Teslas, but, I'd have to just pull the data to see what the makeup of those vehicles were so far.
All right, so hold on. I own a Tesla.
And me too. I've got a Model Y.
Okay, so I get text alerts or
Fester's got a Y as well.
Yeah, update alerts off of the app
time.
all the time. When my wife unplugs it, when it's unlocked, when she walks away from it, I get all kinds of annoying alerts. Are you saying you're trying to get with Tesla? They should have sent a mass text out to everybody in Central Florida. Hey, get your car off of a flood zone. Take it. Don't park it in your garage.
So with Hurricane Ian, we discovered it. I've got some great photos to show you. With Hurricane Ian, we discovered this problem.
Right.
And it's not a problem in Atlanta. It's not a problem in Oklahoma or Dallas. Only where you got saltwater, stormwater, surge,
just high
metal content water. So we had all over the place with Hurricane Ian. So then I've always been worried about this. So when Idalia, we got in a little contentious environment with Tesla back during Hurricane Ian in 2022. With Idalia, God bless them, they did a push alert and they told people, hey, storm's coming. These are the things you do. And they sent you to a hyperlink of what you should do if you own one of their cars. And I gave them an attaboy. That's the right thing to do. But this time, it was crickets. Because like I said, I didn't get the push notification.
Yeah.
So,
and it's interesting what causes an EV to burst into flames and some don't. Perfect example. One block over from me in South Tampa, $4.5 million home destroyed. Gone. I mean, gone. The block walls are left. Everything inside incinerated. I'm talking about, the dome photo you see in Hiroshima, that famous, and I've been there several times. I mean, that's what this house looks like. I mean, everything incinerated inside, but just the block walls of the home standing. But that home, EV, it was a Model S. So it was a Model S that burst into flames. Across the street from me, literally across the street from me, my neighbor lost 2 Teslas. So they had a Model X and they had I think a Model S. So and they're 2 Teslas underwater and nothing.
So what happens is if you move it, sometimes that's what's going to create the grounding effect.
Yep.
But if it's not as much of a threat if the battery's got charge, that's where it's a threat. If it doesn't have charge on it, then it's not as much of a threat.
Yeah, and you always keep it topped off.
You always do.
Yeah,
you
always
do.
We have it plugged in at the house.
Yeah,
I probably would have left it plugged in during the storm.
That's right.
That's one of the questions is the vehicle fires, were they cars that were plugged in as well? Does that exacerbate if you're plugged in and charging?
It could. It just depends on what happens. But typically your system, because the power goes out in your neighborhood because of the storm, that means the power goes out to your device, unless it's on a generator. But that if you've evacuated and you're flooded, you may not have any power whatsoever.
Right.
Jimmy, these guys are giving me a hard time because earlier I said, guys, there's a Tesla fire and there's a regular fire. And they're like, Roxanne, what do you know? You're not a fire marshal. Well, you're here, so you can attest to that. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong.
So they call them ICE, internal combustion engine fires. Those fires, and when we gotten real combative with the EV manufacturers, they come up, there was thousands and thousands more ICE fires. Well, yes, of course there are, but we can put those out. You can't put an EV fire out. You can put thousands and thousands. But best thing you do is if you got a retention pond, dump it in a retention pond, or you park it in an abandoned parking lot and you do fire watch on it. Somebody stands there and watch it burn to the ground.
Because we've seen the stories, and I don't even think that these were flood related, but there have been stories where it took 4 hours and 42,000 gallons of water to put. There was one in California.
Yeah.
There have been some accidents where they've crashed into trees and they've burst into flames.
100%.
So it's
the one actor from Fast and Furious.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So there have been fires where there have been damage. The lithium ion cells, because when you look at these battery packs, there were like thousands of AA batteries.
Exactly.
That are all wired in series.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable. Imagine having like a truckload of like Duracell AA's and like have that crash and batteries are all over the place. That's what these EVs contain. These power packs are just loaded with hundreds and hundreds of like AA lithium looking cells. And if you go to YouTube, and have you seen the YouTube videos?
No, but the batteries will explode.
Exactly. So there are a couple of if you want to see this, you go to YouTube and type in lithium battery fire test. And there's some folks that have just taken just lithium ion batteries. I'm a scuba diver.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I use lithium AA's in my
your computer.
My Shearwater computer. I use lithium. And they've taken these apart and unraveled the actual lithium coated cells inside and put them in water, and they will burst into flames.
That's right. A buddy of mine was a Navy SEAL, retired, and they used mini subs, electric mini subs.
Yep.
But he said whenever they had a thermal meltdown, run away with it. He said they would just sink the sub, let it burn for 3 days, and then go get it because there's nothing you could do with it. They just evacuate safely, but they would just let it, drop it to the bottom, let it burn, go pick it up.
When you get some data on the EV fires here in Florida, I'd really like to know what the breakdown was, because all I know about are the Pinellas County Tesla, the Beach Park Tesla, the Davis Islands Tesla, and then, believe it or not, just a couple of blocks over, there was another Tesla fire. I don't think it burned the house down, but I think it was Cheryl and there was another Tesla fire. I mean, literally within blocks of the one. So I'd like to know about the other brands if you get that data.
Well, and yesterday, Jeep did an announcement of a recall of 150,000 of their Jeep and Wrangler EVs. Said park them, in a safe place. Don't put them in your garage because they're susceptible to fire.
Well, all right, let's move from the EVs to the scams. As Chief Financial Officer, I know that you have a whole litany. We have the door-to-door solicitors going on right now. We've got the so-called contractors. There are tons of wonderful, reputable, licensed contractors here in Florida. Where do you want to start with the scams?
So people are vulnerable after a storm. You see the absolute best in people, but you see the absolute worst in people. And as your neighbors are going to be dealt with this, typical, I'll give you the tree trimmer example, is a crew will be starting down one end of the street, and they will start having somebody go ahead of everybody else on the crew, knocking on doors, locking down sales. And, let me think about it. Well, my crew's on your street. We're not coming back. So it's a high-pressure sale to get cash from you. If you got a tree on your house, your insurance company is going to pay for that removal. Yep. That is part of your claim. So when you pay somebody cash on your doorstep to do that, you might as well be setting on fire. There's no way you're going to be able to get that money back. There's no way you're going to get a guaranteed reimbursement from your insurance carrier.
The reputable companies, they will wait for payment from your insurance company or for you to provide a check later. So a lot of people are in this immediate, you're not going to be able to get it done. Go ahead and lock us in now, pay us cash. And you have, there are some individuals or companies that will take cash and they will do the work and do a nice
100%.
job. But there are plenty that will rip you off and steal your money.
Because they know that you got your single biggest investment in your entire life staring at you with a tree on it, and they prey upon that. So where it may be a $1,000 job, they're going to ask $4 or $5 grand from you, and that is a total insured covered claim. So between that, and then you have the others who will try to get what's called a directional of payments or an AOB from you. An AOB is assignment of benefits. That means you're assigning your benefits to somebody else.
Yep.
And once you sign over your claim to somebody else, they will use your entire proceeds.
My wife saw you deliver a presser as well, and my wife, an attorney, so she's kind of attorney minded.
Sure.
She was at the Hillsborough County State Attorney's Office for a little bit. Don't sign anything, and you and your team. So don't sign anything until. What is the threshold?
So you don't sign any. I mean, even your insurance company's not going to make you sign anything.
Right.
Okay. But if you don't sign anything, then you're not taking a chance of giving your rights to some stranger. And every time you sign a document, look, there's good public adjusters and there's bad ones. But these public adjusters, there's some that will canvass the neighborhoods. They will sign everybody up and leave you twisting in the wind.
Right.
They'll just try to sign as many as they can. They get 10% of the claim.
Because we already had public adjusters rolling through our neighborhood. It's really incredible.
Yeah.
The contractor solicitors, they were out within hours.
100%.
The sun came up on Friday morning after the event, and we already had all kinds of subcontractors or people looking for work. I'm sure many reputable, but also you have the scam artists. The public adjusters were out there as well. And again, they have an interest in the fact that, a lot of the public adjusters, and maybe there are some good, there are some bad.
That's right.
But they will say that your insurance company is not going to be responsive, that we're going to be able to push your insurance company. That's one of the things that the public adjusters say.
So, like, we're setting up. We're going to announce it later today. We're doing an insurance village. So what we'll do is we'll bring about 30 to 40 insurance companies together, all in one location, and you come and they write checks on site. This is what we tell them to do. If you're going to show up at our insurance village, you're going to write checks. And the great thing about it is people walk in, they get seed money. That's usually about 10 to 12 grand for hotel rooms. Get your life stabilized so we can start to allow you to rebuild your house.
All right, where is this? Do you have an idea yet where the village is going to be geographically?
We just finalized it. We were going to try to pull it off this week. So I'll probably have something in about 30 minutes, and I'll get it to you.
You're going to put together the top insurers in the state.
Right.
All the big names.
And don't forget, this is going to be thousands and thousands of flood claims on automobiles. So and those are cookie cutter. Yeah, those will fly through.
Right. Do we have a handle on the number of vehicles? Is there any estimate on the number of trashed, flooded vehicles in the state?
No. We will get that number here. And I'll show you my photos from Ian. It's as far as the eye can see with automobiles.
Tens of thousands of cars?
No, you can just go look at the population of this area.
Yeah.
Pinellas is the most populated area per square mile of any county in the state. Yep. So you're going to have a lot of cars. A lot of people have lost their transportation.
What's the state's plan for keeping these cars out of being resold?
Because remember Hurricane Katrina, you had a lot of shenanigans and scams with vehicles that were salvage titles, and the 100%. Games where they're retitled in other states, and then we had a ton of flood cars end up in Florida. Texas was hit with a lot of Katrina cars. So great question, Fester.
So I'll show you some of these pictures of the flood cars from Ian. They go onto a website. They are labeled as either rebuilt titles, salvage, or junk. But there's a lot of valuable parts on them. You think of how many parts can be reused off of these cars, but the car has got possible electrical problems. So they're in some cases they're sold as is. Some ways they're a rebuilt title. So when you buy it from one of these websites, you know there's going to be a buyer beware. But now when it goes through maybe 2 or 3 different states title systems, you know what? You may have something that gets camouflaged, and it's unfortunate, but we make sure we do what's right by the citizens of the state of Florida, that car is labeled properly here.
Is it called like title washing or something to that effect? And another thing that I've always been aware of, and I learned this after Katrina, and this always stuck with me, is how to find and detect a flooded car.
Oh, how's that?
And a lot of times they're sloppy. They'll do cursory cleanup. But a lot of times, if you look deep under the dash up into the wiring harness, they were sloppy. You'll see debris. You'll still see mud and dirt and sand up under the dash. Another way is take off the door panel. All these cars are put together like Legos, essentially.
Yeah, that's right.
So you take off the door panel, and a lot of these lazy individuals that get flooded cars and then try to sell them to unsuspecting individuals later on, they don't do a real thorough cleanup. Another way is to take off the door panel and look and see if there's rust or debris. The water line up inside the car will leave debris behind the plastic or whatever material is on the interior door panel. Look behind into the metal, and you can see if there's water damage. So there are ways to detect. So a lot of times they just do the cursory stuff.
Sure.
They clean up the dash. They clean up the carpet. But there are a lot of little telltale signs on flood-damaged cars that they don't clean up.
Yeah, I remember somebody telling me about pulling up the carpet and see if you see.
And that's another thing. Look underneath the carpet and see if there's a giant mess. So you're also, let's talk about the anti-fraud teams that you are deploying here in the state.
So we've got about 300 sworn law enforcement. There's one out here named Charles. Charles, wave.
Yeah, we a whole entourage. We got a whole Florida State entourage here in the hallway.
So Charles is one of our officers, and we've got about 300, and we've broken them up in 2 and 3 man teams, and they're canvassing the devastated neighborhoods. And so I love it on Facebook. If you meet our guys, please post. They're out there being proactive. They've got their lights on, and it's just to scare away the cockroaches. That's all. They're out there to run off the bad guys.
Oh, speaking of the cockroaches, before I forget. The water levels that we saw here in the Tampa Bay area. In South Tampa, we had a surge of about 7 feet. Again,
that's crazy.
It's absolutely insane. And we had a bit of boy who cried wolf in the sense that I've been here since 1994.
Okay.
And I've been through a lot of this. I was thrown into the fire early on in my career. I was in West Palm for 2 years, then came over here. and had to deal with these storms. So I've dealt with countless storms over 30 years, the close calls, the near misses. We've had a lot of these storms, and obviously dealt with every facet of this. For years on the various storms, we've heard about the storm surge. The storm surge predictions of 4 to 6 feet, 5 to 8 feet, 8 feet plus, and it's never come to fruition. So what we've discussed on the show, Jimmy, is that we've been warned for decades. I've been here since 94. We have people that were here in the 70s, the 60s, the 50s, and never saw this.
That's right.
This has not been seen since the no-name storm, a hurricane, in 1921, which hit Tarpon Springs.
Sure.
So that was 1921 was the last time that this area saw anything like this. That was a direct hit. That hit Tarpon Springs in 1921. This storm was 100 miles to the west of St. Pete Beach.
That's right.
This thing was 100 miles out in the Gulf, and look what it did.
And then you had the false comfort that both Ian and Irma sucked all the water out of Tampa Bay.
Yep.
So people, think, well, gosh, the last two storms that hit the state of Florida, the water left the bay. And I knew it was only a matter of time. I was worried about Idalia. You had some storm surge in Idalia, but I was worried about this one just because how wide of a storm it was.
And that's what we have to address, is that for decades and decades, we've been warned about storm surge, which never came to fruition to the levels that we saw.
Yeah.
And last week, it did. So
this market's always got to worry about the counterclockwise motion.
Yep. Yeah.
Because it will. If you're in the wrong place, that counterclockwise motion is going to flood this part of the state.
So the boy who cried wolf syndrome is people heard for years, storm surge, storm surge, storm surge. It never happened. So people, it's not going to happen. And it did. So the worst case scenario, with the conditions of that storm being 100 miles, it verified. It came to fruition, which is absolutely unbelievable. What else is important for the people to know? We've got a vast listenership, a lot of real estate covered by this signal.
Sure. So just want to be careful when it comes. There's a lot of generosity out there. And as people want to give to the Red Cross, Salvation Army, United Way, those are all nice, large, reputable, accountable charitable firms. But you'll have, the state's also doing volunteerflorida.org. What you want to be careful of is the GoFundMe scams.
Right.
Where you have crowdfunding. Somebody will take a sensational photo off of Clearwater Beach. They'll create a horrific narrative, and then they'll start preying on the generosity of those that want to give money. And you get the right publicity. A lot of money gets directed to some scam artist in another state. For example, like when the Surfside building collapsed. So we do all urban search and rescue for the state of Florida. So we had 1,200 urban search and rescue first responders in the state respond to this storm. And in the case with Surfside, we were down there for 30 days, and we started beating up on GoFundMe. GoFundMe admitted to us they had found 21 fraudulent fundraising campaigns on their website of people trying to steal from the generosity. So this will be no different, but GoFundMe is definitely doing a better job trying to point those bad guys out and close out their accounts. But just, make sure you know who you're giving your money to.
The best thing is if you have friends, you directly know people that need help, certainly help your friends. You know them, but it's really the large organizations. For instance, our company, folks, we have Jimmy Patronis in studio. Jimmy Patronis is the Chief Financial Officer for the state of Florida, also the state fire marshal. Beasley Media Group, our parent company, we've teamed up with the American Red Cross. And our listeners can text Helene. Text Helene to 90999, and you'll be able to make a $10 gift. Everyone can make a $10 gift.
That's right.
It is if you want to give more, you can, but the default is, this is as easy as it gets. On your cell phone, you can make a donation right now. It's literally just text the word Helene to 90999, and the American Red Cross is a large organization that is poised and well prepared for mass disaster. So it's the organizations that you know and you can trust where you can make donations, or helping out friends and neighbors and relatives directly when you know the people. But it's really sick the individuals that will come out of the woodwork. I mean, what kind of human being takes advantage and preys on others in a time of disaster and need, but they're out there in mass?
Oh, it's the absolute worst. And I just say it all the time. You see the best in people, but you see the worst in people.
A couple of other things. Again, I just want to warn people again, and these are some of the details that you put out, is don't be swayed by aggressive tactics by contractors, roofers.
So, and then what's going to happen with the roofers is they're going to come and they're going to offer to tarp your roof for free,
Yep.
or they're going to offer to do a free inspection. Once they do that, that gets them in a dialogue with you. And so let's say you do have roof damage. What I tell people that you don't realize is your insurance companies have what are called pre-event contracts. They have signed up roofers that are going to be treating you as front of the line, front of the line customers. So as long as you contact your insurance agent, your carrier, or my office, 1-877-MY-FLCFO, there's zero chance you're going to get taken advantage of. I just want to make sure you get every dollar you're entitled to, and it's not being siphoned off or inflated by somebody who does not have your best interests at heart.
Some of these aggressive contractors will try to get in between you and the insurance company.
That's right.
So you have to worry about that. Do not give a total stranger money, folks. I know that conditions might seem dire. They might hit you with pitches that if you don't act now, you're going to be behind 500 other people.
100%.
That's another thing, is the scare tactic.
This is why, like I said, we're going to do this insurance village here this week. And it's just so important. If you're listening to my voice and you've got a house that's been damaged, you need to show up at this village. If you've already got a dialogue started, great. The great thing about it is the carriers have been leveraging technology. I mean, my home was not even in the affected area. I got 3 emails from my carrier letting me know a storm was coming. Here's the app you should download. This is what we recommend you should do. So look at your push notifications, your SMS, and your email, because you may have already gotten outreach by your carrier where they want to proactively get a handle of your claim.
You said, and this is very important, the first call should be to your insurance carrier.
Yeah. So if you call your carrier, and more than likely, if your carrier's not reached out to you yet, it's because it's probably in your spam folder, or you do not have an email on file with them. But there's a senior population that lives in this affected area that may not be as quite tech savvy. This is why if you didn't get outreach from your carrier, call your agent or call your carrier directly.
Yeah, really, folks, one of the big tips to walk away with is only talk to your insurance company.
Yeah, and look, and I tell people all the time, you can always hire a public adjuster. You can always hire an attorney. Just exhaust all your resources that we can offer to you directly, because you're paying for them anyway. Let us help you get your money.
We mentioned roofing a little while ago. One of our sponsors on the show is a wonderful family-owned company called Westfall Roofing. And, they've been around since 1989. Honest, they've done work at my house.
That helps.
There are reputable companies out there.
100%. I tell people all the time, if you're going to use a contractor, use somebody locally that has to look you in the face.
Yep.
That you may see at church, you might see at the ball field, you might see at the grocery store. So if you've got somebody that cares about their local reputation, they're going to be very sensitive to how they treat you.
All right, we got a big mess to clean up. Do we have a handle on damage yet in the state? Is there any preliminary number on the Florida exposure as far as the loss?
So as of about 48 hours ago, we at what, 40,000 claims? I think about 48 hours ago, which a lot's happened in 48 hours.
Yes.
We had about 40,000 claims and about $500 million worth of damages. Now, to kind of give you a snapshot, Hurricane Ian, 770,000 insurance claims,
right?
Over $20 billion in paid losses.
Right. All right, so we're not even close to having a real assessment.
Not yet.
This will exceed
and
Ian.
People are just getting back to their houses now. Look, the sheriff had to protect people, and I'm sorry, those communities are not really that safe to be entering into right now. So the sheriff is trying to be respectful of those people, and look, there's going to be things there that are just going to be horrific, and you're not going to be prepared to see. So,
our local law enforcement, our sheriff's offices and local police agencies, we had Sheriff Cronister on from Hillsborough. Lee Burkall is the chief of police, city of Tampa. Pinellas County, Bob Gualtieri, Naco, and up, all of, I can't even mention all of the
all come in to help.
The local municipalities, police departments, sheriff's offices, all of the fire and rescue. They really went above and beyond. Also, I think we need to recognize that even when they said that we're not going to be able to respond to calls for service, they still made every effort to get to those areas when service was called for.
Absolutely. These superheroes, I mean, you think about it, nobody makes investments. They don't have nice jobs. They don't have good hospitals unless it's safe. And you've got incredible leadership here. Bob has done a great job. Chad's done a great job. They keep your community safe, but at some point they also have to look out for the lives of those men who wear the uniform. And if the storm's too dangerous, they can't deploy out, but they'll be the first ones there as soon as it's safe to get out.
All right, your number is 877-MY-FL-CFO.
Call that number. You can go online, myfloridacfo.com. Any of a number of ways you can start to engage us. People call us. They don't even know what their policy number is. They don't know where to find it. We will help them unpack all that.
A lot of people probably had paperwork in drawers and
it's gone.
And it's been flooded out.
Yeah. It happens, especially because if you have a mortgage, your mortgages require insurance. It's going to be all embedded in your payment. So you may not necessarily think about it or see it on a regular basis because it's already been drawn out of your bank account automatically. Like I said, if you've got questions, you need to either come to our insurance village or give us a call.
And when do we think that the location for the insurance village is going to be finalized?
You can reach out and find out.
All right.
I think we're going to see it probably Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay.
Preliminarily, it's the library in Clearwater Beach. But I think we just had to finalize because we need a lot of space.
Sure.
Yeah. So the big concern was just make sure we had adequate space.
Yep.
And you got to have some place that's handicap accessible.
All right. So your number, you can get a hold of Jimmy Patronis' office. Also, our State Attorney General, Ashley Moody. Their number is, 866-9-NO-SCAM?
No scam. So that's the price gouging hotline.
Right.
And the good thing about it is we're talking about it.
Yep.
That makes everybody listening self-conscious, not to screw around with those that are in need right now. So every time they know that threat is there, that is a great deterrence from people taking advantage of the public.
Jimmy Patronis, quickly before we wrap things up, how did the chief financial officer of the state of Florida also become the state fire marshal?
Okay, so you said you've been here since 94?
Yeah.
Okay, so back in 94, we had 7 statewide electeds. So you had an elected treasurer/insurance commissioner who was also the fire marshal, and you also had a statewide elected comptroller. The Constitution was rewritten just over 20 years ago, and we went from 7 statewide electeds to 4. So we took the comptroller and the treasurer and blended them together. Well, the treasurer was also the insurance commissioner, who was also the fire marshal. The fire marshal was involved with the insurance commissioner in rate setting because of the risk, because of fire in the fire code. So this is how it all stayed blended together. A lot of those duties still stay in our office. We have an appointed insurance commissioner now. But I do insurance consumer services. I do insurance fraud. We license about 1 million insurance agents. It's the best job in the state.
Also, you run the treasure hunt as well.
Oh gosh.
Oh, that's
folks,
a good one.
Yeah, it's awesome. So if you have not done,
I've gotten $800 back.
Okay.
So thank you. You signed my check, Jimmy.
Well, and you got to check every name you've ever used too. Okay.
All your aliases. Yes.
So,
but it's fltreasurehunt.gov. fltreasurehunt.gov. Sometimes you'll get a letter from us.
Yeah.
And just go to the website and start the process, and you'd be shocked. Search your mom's name, your dad's name, your grandparents' name, a business you own, maybe a business you owned before
20 years ago.
or I tell you, a common one is utility deposits. When people go off to school, they'll go off to school, they'll pay utility deposit and not get it back.
Guess what? You buy a car, lease a car, and I've had several refunds for the license plate registration that it never came back to me, but the dealership was honest and sent it to the state. In the last 5-6 years, I've had about $850 that came back to me. So if you have any money, Jimmy Patronis' office also runs the treasure hunt. Well, it's fltreasurehunt.gov.
Yeah. And so I just checked. The insurance village is going to be Thursday through Saturday. And are you verifying the location? Okay, he's verifying the location.
Okay, all right.
This is Ryan. I didn't introduce Ryan.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hi,
Ryan.
Ryan.
Hey,
How
Ryan.
you doing? Jimmy Patronis, the CEO or CFO. Jimmy Patronis, the Chief Financial Officer for the state of Florida and Fire Marshal. Jimmy,
Your show prep's impressive,
Yeah.
dude. You've been here since yesterday putting that stuff together.
do a lot of work at night.
Yeah, you
Hey,
do.
you just spoke his love language.
Oh,
the
I
fact
tell
that
you.
you told him his show prep is impressive.
Oh, I tell you, well, because I used to be sitting across and I would try to do show prep, and I'm sitting there typing out on a computer as fast as I
Right.
could. And, you know,
So you were in radio? Or?
oh yeah. So before I ever ran for office, I was up at a Clear Channel station up in Panama City.
Yep.
And it was, I tell you, drive time radio is so fun and it's so intimate and people know who you are. You go through their speakers and you connect with them and you build their routine and you become part of their family.
Yep.
You know.
And then you also have a restaurant background
Yeah.
up in the Panhandle.
So I was in the restaurant business for 30 years. My family's still there. We've had the restaurant about 60.
Yep.
It's called Captain Anderson's. It was a great place to grow up. And now all my nieces and nephews, my son just started working there.
Fantastic.
And my 13's turning 14 on Thursday, and I'm not coming home. They're going to come down here, so we're going to spend a little extra time doing work and a little celebration.
All right. So when you leave here, you've got a couple of busy days
Yeah.
here in the Tampa Bay area. Where are you? What does the rest of the day look like? Where are you going to visit? Where are you going to tour? What's scheduled for today?
We're going to be spending a lot of time in Pinellas, and we've been in constant contact. You've got very good state legislators here, DeSigley and Linda Cheney, and all these guys. They really care about how this Bernie Jock, how the recovery takes place. There'll be some role that the state will play potentially in the upcoming legislative session, depending on the needs of this impacted area. So I'll be meeting with them, making sure, because now they're going to have a real empathy of what some people go through. And it's important that they take that pain and suffering and channel it into good legislation or even funding to help this area pick itself back up.
Jimmy Patronis, Chief Financial Officer for the state of Florida and Fire Marshal. Thank you, Jimmy, for
Thanks,
coming
buddy.
in.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Hey, do me a favor. We're still not going to break for another 15 minutes. So Fester and Roxanne, take it for just a second. I got to get a picture with
course.
Jimmy. All right.
Of course.
All right.
And I'm going to ask Ryan, and you can just tell me off air, yay or nay. Did they confirm that that it's going to be at the Clearwater Public Library?
Yeah,
You don't have a confirm
They're
yet.
still working
Okay.
on a location right now because, like you said, it has to be large enough for all the people they're expecting. It has to be completely handicap accessible, and it needs to be a place that can facilitate all of this.
Okay,
Wow.
so they're figuring that out, but it is going to be Thursday to Saturday. I loved catching up with Jimmy. He had a lot of great information, and it's
So-
just there's so much work to be done.
We'll have this whole interview pulled. Andrew will pull this whole segment. We'll have it posted on all of our socials as well, so you can watch because there's a lot of good information that was given out. MJ, a lot of information that people can use and use as a resource down the line, even a couple of weeks down the line. If you need help navigating the process, come back to this interview for a lot of good information.
This is a very long process. Thank you. Got a challenge
I
coin.
got the challenge coin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the challenge coin. I appreciate it. I've got a lot of great challenge coins.
Hey.
Thank you.
You're my favorite cabinet member. I'll tell you right now. You're my favorite.
I'll take
You're my favorite. Tell
hey,
Nikki Fried, forget it.
thanks for making the time for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Jimmy Patronis and his entire team, state law enforcement, fire, and really a lot of good information. Did you like the video? Want more? Go ahead and click all this like, share, subscribe,